Puzzles made by Ukrainian designers for children and adults, trains, trams, boxes, and even working safes made from plywood parts. A unique Ukrainian project that unites different generations for one objective. UATV figured out what was special about these odd plywood gears. Hyper-realistic computer games, new generation consoles, virtual reality. It seems that humanity is plunging deeper into the ocean of digital entertainment, forgetting about real life. Recent statistics indicated otherwise. According to the global agency Euromonitor International, sales of table games and a variety of puzzles have grown from $9.3 billion in 2013 to $9.6 billion, that is, more than 3%. Analysts predict that this market will add 1% per year and mainly at the expense of young people. As it turns out, generations of the late 20th century either experience nostalgia for table games and puzzles from childhood or just want to spend time with friends for real deal, not virtual. Socialization and tactile sensations are something that a computer game cannot fully provide. A physical constructor set can be replaced with a digital one, but the result of the work cannot be felt, put on a shelf, or truly shared in the spirit of teamwork. Anyone who comes up with and qualitatively makes an original game of a puzzle can confidently count on the fact that millions of people around the world will be interested in it, especially if it's a toy, a puzzle, and a constructor set. 3D puzzles had to be assembled, but they're very static. Kinematic figures and kinematic models did not have to be assembled, they were ready. That is, we have taken and done something average between the kinematics and the 3D puzzles. The simplest kinematic toys are well known to everybody swaying weights for the office. A 3D puzzle is any modular model like a plastic airplane or ship. Its fragility and the use of glue exclude movement, while kinematic toys are usually boring to assemble. The Ukrainian constructor set is a successful hybrid. Basically, it's a mechanical 3D puzzle. When a person buys this set, yes, finally, when they have assembled it, this is a beautiful interior thing. It's a beautiful toy. It's all wonderful. But there is still the assembly process. Honestly, for me, this is the most basic process. How did the idea to produce models differ from anything else? Why did Ukrainian toys manage to attract people around the world? And what should a designer be able to do to develop such complex 3D puzzles? Watch next in this program. Gennady Shestak has been running this factory for several years already and cannot spend a day without discussing new ideas for mechanical models. He used to be engaged in much more boring things. In fact, I was looking for something interesting for the format of part-work journals. These are magazines for the assembly of collections. For example, 120 magazines that are published once a week. And in every magazine there is a piece of detail or a few details. Thus, having bought all 120 magazines, you can assemble some model toy. Partworks with models have been known for several decades. This is a well-established segment of the hobby market. It was only in Ukraine that after the events of 2014, the lovers of model collectors were not up on all the magazines. Gennady realized that he must find something fundamentally new, and on one of the Kyiv startup sites, he met with the young inventor Denis Okhrimenko. He had an idea to make Ukrainian souvenirs. That is, it was an analog of kinematic models. After several of our meetings, we proposed to him that if he changes the approach to the product on a 3D puzzle, then that will be interesting. For 2 months, we thought how to do this and looked at each other. Now Denis is engaged in a new business, and then he agreed to the suggestions of Gennady and did not regret it. So I had a partner with a lot of experience in trading, Gennady Shestak. We bought a machine, and at first I did everything myself. I cut it, packed it, and selected materials. That is, it closed the whole cycle. Then, as a successful exhibition was held in Odessa, where everything was sold out, including demo tapes. This success allowed designers to think about entering the world market, especially since their models are already being transported abroad. It took more than a year to fine-tune the production process and achieve maximum quality. At the end of 2015, Ukrainian 3D puzzles came out on one of the leading crowdfunding platforms with a very modest goal to raise at least $20,000. We exposed, if I'm not mistaken, about 10 models. We collected a little more than 400,000 in 35 days without delivery, and we were still writing. It turns out that we finished on the new year, the very peak of the holidays. And there are a lot of interested people and potential investors interested in buying our models. So we were allowed to extend it for another week. With a total result of more than $440,000, mechanical 3D puzzles have become the most successful Ukrainian project in international crowdfunding. This allowed Hennady to expand the team to 150 people and bring the production chain to perfection. The hybrid idea of a mechanical 3D puzzle has largely been formed already in the course of the process and has not changed since then. Hennady Shestak emphasizes that in the era of computer entertainment, the most important aspect of these toys is socialization. Our models allow us to work together. They can be assembled by a father and a son, a grandfather with his grandson, and so on, brother and brother. It is some kind of common work, as it unites us, and it allows people to start communicating again in a personal mode. It would seem that nothing can be simpler. You can grind out dozens of toys, like companies that make plastic constructor sets. Yuri Novichenko, who is responsible for the production process, admits that Ukrainian masters themselves have complicated their task many times over for nothing. Their approach is that the next version of a constructor set should not be similar to the previous one. If we make one engine, then people will not be interested, especially if the next model is exactly the same engine. After all, it's easy to change some kind of visual design of a locomotive, but who will be interested in it if the exact same mechanics are inside the package? That is why the most important thing in creating the next puzzle is a fresh concept. For 3 years of work, Ukrainian designers came up with and implemented only about 30 models. However, the creation of each of these models sometimes takes several months. Computer modeling is not the main process in designers' work, as one might think. First of all, you must work out this mechanism in your head, because later you will draw it in the program and it will work. But when you work in the program, you have to spend a certain amount of time, and it's very hard if you completely rely on the program without thinking it through in your head. A person who has a creative spatial imagination does not even really need a 3D application. Seeing as he built the concept in his head, he can immediately lay it out into drawings and go forward from there with the final design. New ideas are always discussed in the team. They are finalized, and only then does the process of 3D modeling begin. The designer can use only plywood parts, thin connecting rails like toothpicks, and rubber drives. Using glue, electronics, and batteries is taboo in this sphere. But if a new designer requires an overly subtle or sophisticated assembly process, this idea is either rejected or adapted. The assembly process should also be pleasant. You spend a huge amount of time. Often, in our last models, it takes even more time, as I presume that a person will play with it. The assembly process for us is a key element. Accordingly, the construction of all node and the construction of the mechanism itself should be such that it was nice to assemble. I built one element, I tried it, and it works. So I simply put it aside for the time being, until the time is right. In addition, the parts must be cut with perfect precision. Here we use environmentally friendly, high-quality plywood with a thickness of 3.5 to 3.7 millimeters. Laser machines with software control allow you to make slits in these boards with the thickness of a human hair. There are no less than 100 details. Of this, the first prototype is collected, tested, and often sent for revision. Not because it turned out badly, but to make it even better. One of the important requirements for these 3D puzzles is that the mechanism is clearly visible through the body, and anything that can move should be able to move doors, for example. Sometimes you have to limit even the amount of details, because when the designer enters a state of this kind of creative drive, he can invent even 1,000 details. We sometimes limit ourselves and say, enough is enough, there's no limit to perfection. The guys work differently. There are idealists, and there are those who do not want to twist too much. In short, we have to balance this working process. As a result, after months of hard work, one of these amazing 3D puzzles is released in a series. The production leader of the Ukrainian factory is this locomotive with a tender. The length of the model is about half a meter, the weight is almost 1.5 kilograms, and there are 443 details. On the rubber motor, this toy passes 5 and more meters along an even surface or rails. But the model does not just rotate the wheels and gears inside, everything moves. You can open the windows, turn off the light, and open the doors. This locomotive can be studied as an exhibit, although it would seem that just a few minutes ago you assembled it with your own own hands. By the way, it can take 10 to 12 hours to assemble. The locomotive can be separately completed with 1-meter rails and a platform. That is, as a result, you can create a plywood railway at home. When I was at an exhibition of toys in Germany, I noticed that the engine was given a whole pavilion dedicated strictly to locomotives. There are shops in Europe which sell only locomotives, and the area of the commercial floor space reaches up to thousands of square meters. Everybody likes locomotives, and everybody gets a thrill from watching them chugging down miniature railways. From other forms of transport, Ukrainian designers have also recreated trucks with various trailers, a tram, a combine, and a tractor using plywood. But the imagination of local designers is not limited to this. Only they can come up with a way to make a robot factory out of plywood. It is made in the style of steampunk, has 598 parts and really works. This means that if you charge a few parts in the conveyor, the toy will actually assemble a robot from them. They have movable joints, the body turns at the waist, and in the upper section of the mini models is the operator's cabin. The factory around the perimeter is surrounded by the monorail with a lift for the delivery of spare parts and equipment. Also, a ramp for cars, employee figures, and cargo boxes are included. The assembled time for assembling this mechanical miracle is also around 10 to 12 hours, and you can play with it as much as your heart desires. What is also amazing is that some of these constructor sets, like this mechanical crane, come in very handy for the designers themselves. So, if the snacks obtained with the help of the crane need to be folded somewhere, a mechanical box will come to the rescue.
Я считаю, что каждая модель должна обладать какой-то своей фишкой. Люди любят...
I believe that each model must have some kind of its own tricky part. People like some nice little details. The train's door opens and the stairs come down to the platform. In the casket, for example, there's a secret niche. When we designed it, we searched for a long time how to make it in such a cool and interesting way. Then we see that in fact this element in the casket closed the shaft. So we decided to make a super secret niche inside the casket. There's also a container for more valuable items, a mechanical safe with a real combination lock of 3 digits. With its assistance, anyone can present a gift to a friend or co-worker on a special occasion like a birthday, a wedding or Christmas.
Что это?
Это сейф.
Он работает?
Да.
Не открывается. А как он открывается?
Ты сможешь открыть на это.
Какой?
Нужно ввести код 4. Ты выйдешь за меня замуж?
Да.
Ukrainian mechanical 3D puzzles for 2 years have already been delivered to 80 countries around the world. And their geographic destination continues to expand. The whole of Europe, North America, and partly South America. Sometimes countries come to mind that I forget existed since my school days. For example, Costa Rica or some other country that is not a typical buzzword. And Nadi shares exclusive news only with UATV. Very soon, Ukrainian mechanical 3D puzzles will officially become part of one of the most famous in the world networks of amusement parks based on a whole array of animated films. We developed several test models and showed what we're capable of. We sent samples. They really liked it and got a positive response with the word "wow." They have about 700 branded stores around the world. On Thursday, I received a letter stating that Disney had accepted the audit report and logged us in its registry as a company that could produce the product for the next 3 years.
в течение.
Today, these fascinating puzzle toys have become one of the branded Ukrainian products that have become popular all over the world.